I remember waking up one night, maybe around 1 a.m. It was dark outside, and the house was dead silent. I wasn't sure what had pulled me from my sleep until I heard it. Knocking. It started softly at first, but it wouldn't stop. I stayed in bed telling myself it was probably my uncle. Maybe he forgot his keys. Then it stopped. Curious and a little nervous, I got out of bed. The hallway across the room leads directly to the front door. I crept towards the corner and peeked around, expecting to see the front door wide open, but it wasn't. The second door, a heavy metal gate we always locked before bed, was still closed. There's no way anyone could have been knocking. My heart dropped into my stomach. A chill ran down my spine. My uncle had passed away 8 years ago, right in our backyard. I stood there frozen, unsure of what to do. My pulse was racing, but I tried to convince myself it was nothing. I went back to my room, trying to shake off the feeling of dread. Then it happened again. The knocking. This time, it was louder, more deliberate. My chest tightened, and my instinct screamed at me to not look. Something felt wrong, off in a way I couldn't explain. I didn't want to see what was at the door. I stayed in bed, paralyzed with fear, until it finally stopped. As I lay there, the memory of something I'd seen years ago came rushing back. I was only 9 at the time. My family had just moved into the house. One afternoon, my grandma asked me to grab a bucket from the backyard. As I walked outside, I saw it. A tall black figure moving silently across the yard. I froze, unable to breathe, unable to move. I was just a kid, but I knew what I saw. It wasn't human. The image had stayed with me ever since, and now, with the knocking echoing in my head, it all felt connected. I never told anyone about that night. I figured no one would believe me. They'd just laugh it off or call it a bad dream. But then a week later, my sister said she'd heard the knocking too. It happened at 3 a.m. She thought the same thing I did, that it was our uncle. She went to the front door, expecting to find him standing there, but when she opened it, there was no one. The knocking stopped the moment her hand touched the doorknob. Strange things happen in our house all the time. Footsteps when no one's there. Knocks at odd hours of the night. We've learned to live with it. We don't treat it like the end of the world. But deep down, I've always wondered, was it really just a coincidence? Or was it something else? Part of me hopes it's my uncle. Maybe it's just a spirit visiting us. But there's another part of me that isn't so sure. And that's what terrifies me the most. In 2013, my family moved to a tough neighborhood in Mobile, Alabama. We followed a football coach for my brother, and the house we rented was cheap but cramped. It had 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and was packed with my parents, 3 siblings, my cousin, and sometimes my uncle. The house smelled old, like Chanel No. 5 mixed with old carpet, and it wasn't exactly cozy. I was 7 or 8 at the time and had a struggle issue with old fabric, so I refused to sleep in any of the bedrooms. Instead, I slept on the living room couch. It felt safe, newer. The couch was beneath a window, with many blinds that were always shut. One night, I fell asleep as usual, with my TV playing recorded Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I woke up, rolled over to fall back asleep, and saw them. 2 eyes, staring at me, peering through the gaps in my blinds. Terrified, I screamed and ran straight to my parents' room. My dad, who's a bodybuilder, jumped out of bed, ran outside, but found no one. No one believed me after that, and it was forgotten, until my brother had his own encounter. A few weeks later, my brother fell asleep on the same couch around 2 a.m. He woke me up eyes wide. "What did you see that night?" he asked. I told him about the eyes staring through the blinds. He just went pale and said, "I just saw the same thing." We woke our parents, and my dad rushed outside again, when no one was there. But this time, we found huge footprints right beneath the window. Finally, they believed us. We figured it was just a peeper, given how dangerous the area was. My brother had a smart idea to flip the blinds upward so no one could see in. It worked. No more eyes watching us at night. For a while, anyway. One night, we went out for a birthday party, and I accidentally left my TV on, like I always did. When we got home, the house was a mess. The front door looked like someone had tried to break in, with claw marks from our uncle's boxer, trying to protect the house. The back door had chips in the frame, like someone had tried to pry it open with a crowbar. My backpack was tossed on the floor, my homework shredded, and pages from my library book were ripped out. My parents realized whoever it was must have been after me or my brother. After all, we were the only ones they'd ever seen. Thank God we weren't home that night. We moved back to a safer neighborhood shortly after. Nothing like that ever happened again, but I still think about those eyes staring at me through the blinds and what could have happened if we hadn't left. It was Halloween night, October 2016. I was 8 years old, loud and hyper, and full of energy. At dinner, my mom told me about a haunted maze attraction and asked if I wanted to go with two of my best friends, Darian and Jace. Obviously, I said yes. Who wouldn't? That night, my parents and I picked up Darian and Jace. Darian was just like me, hyper and always talking. Jace, on the other hand, was quieter, but not shy. We arrived at the maze, which was behind a building where you paid for tickets. The maze was huge, with patches of wood around it, making it feel even creepier. At first, everything seemed normal. We wandered through the maze, laughing and getting scared by little animatronic jump scares. Typical haunted house stuff. But then, a man wearing a scream mask and regular clothes jumped out at me and Darian from around a corner. We nearly jumped out of our skin. Things took a turn when he started talking to us. "Hey kids, sorry I scared you. I've got some candy in the back. You want some?" Darian and I knew better. Stranger danger had been drilled into us. We told him no, but he just didn't give up. He kept begging, his voice getting more aggressive. Eventually, we yelled at him to leave us alone. He finally walked off, but Darian was so shaken that he started to cry. I managed to calm him down, and we decided to go through the maze. An hour later, we reached the woods section of the maze. That's when I noticed something. The same man in the scream mask was walking behind us. He was following us. We tried to stay calm and picked up the pace. Then he started sprinting. This guy was older, maybe 50, but he was fast enough to freak us out. Darian panicked and bolted in another direction, leaving me completely alone. I called out for him, but there was no response. Just then, a hand grabbed me, and I heard a voice whisper, "Grab him! Grab him!" Pure adrenaline kicked in. I yanked my arm free and sprinted as fast as I could. As I ran, I heard a gunshot echo off into the walls. I didn't look back. I finally made it back to the main entrance, heart racing. My mom and the others were at the front, already talking to security and filing a missing report for me. I explained everything, still out of breath, and they immediately called the police. Later, we found out that nobody working at the maze was wearing a scream mask that night. Even worse, the police found several rifles and other weapons hidden in the woods. To this day, I'm thankful I escaped. It still gives me chills to think about what might have happened if I hadn't gotten away. If you enjoyed these true creepy tales, I would love to ask you for a small favor. It would mean the world to me if you could leave a like and comment either your favorite story, or even write me one. Who knows, maybe it'll appear in future renditions. Thank you all for watching. This was Night Fuel, and I hope you have a good evening and good night.